Have you ever felt like you were truly alone? Maybe it's been some places I've experienced where you actually were the only person there. Just recently, about 2 months ago, I was on the Hennepin Canal Towpath Trail that's in the western part of the state of Illinois. And I was out there on a bike adventure by myself one day, and that morning I loaded up with 3 large bottles of water and loaded up with my lunch that I was going to eat, and I thought everything was going to be taken care of. But it got into the 90s that day, and there was very little shade on the trail along the canal towpath. There was a 2-hour section where I didn't see anybody. There was no one around. I had consumed all of my water except for about half a pint that I had saved, and I knew that I was getting on the edge. It was in the afternoon, just the edge of my limits, and I needed to stop. And I was hoping I'd find a place for more water and snacks. And I looked on my GPS on my phone, and I found this little town that was up another 8 miles or so. And if I was going to get there, it was going to divert me off my path of 60 miles that day, and it was going to take me 2 miles further. But I knew I had to get there. And so I routed myself to get into this town, and the name of the town was Genesco. And as I got to that town, on the north side of town, I actually had already pulled up. There's a Casey's country store. And I have never been so happy to see a Casey's in my life. I didn't care what they had or how long it had been rolling on those rollers. I was going to get something to eat. I was going to get something salty because I knew I needed it. And I actually picked up 2 bottles of water, 2 big cans of sparkling water, and I consumed 2.5 of those right outside the Casey's, sitting on the curb. A couple of people looked at me like I was a homeless man in need of help because I was in bad shape. But anyway, that moment, it became like a place of worship, and I was sitting there on the sidewalk around the side of the Casey's, and it was just a place of worship for me because I was thanking God for a Casey's. And I've never done that before in my life, but a Casey's became a place of worship. How about you? When you're in your wilderness, have you been able to turn it into a place of worship? Today we're studying in this series of messages about how there is another, and these are appearances of God, even the Lord Jesus himself, throughout history, where he was with his people before Bethlehem. Jesus showed up and was taking care of his people. Well, that Casey's was like that for me that day. And I find that I'm in good company when I'm going through wilderness experiences like that. And you may be going through a wilderness experience. You may be in a house full of people, an office full of people. You may be in traffic on the expressway going into Chicago. But in the middle of that, while you're feeling alone, in this loneliness, God is still there with you. And I know that because when Moses was in the wilderness, God was with him. When Israel was in the wilderness, God was with the nation of Israel. And when Jesus was in the wilderness, God was with him. And he wants to be with you also. So when you're going through your wilderness experience, there's another with you in the wilderness.